Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube video featuring an exciting conversation with Vinie KOUAMOU, an esteemed expert in HIV research based in South Africa. We will be delving into the world of HIV research, education, and the potential for collaboration to drive positive change. Let's learn from Vinie's expertise and explore how we can all contribute to advancing medical research and improving lives. Stay tuned. Good day, Vinie. Thank you very much to be with us today. Please, can you introduce yourself like that for the people who don't know you? Who are you, Vinie?
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, Patrick, for inviting me to this channel in order for me to share a little bit of what I do with the world and everyone who's interested in knowing. So, like you introduced me, I'm Vinie KOUAMOU, originally from Cameroon, but right now living in Zimbabwe, where I've been doing my study. I've obtained a master degree in chemical pathology in Zimbabwe. After my master degree, I studied a PhD as well in clinical virology, where I was, focusing on HIV, particularly HIV drug resistance. So after my PhD, I had an opportunity to continue with a postdoctoral, where I was still focusing on HIV drug resistance. And yeah, this is what I've been doing. I love research, and I've been really focusing on research, particularly understanding the mechanisms, the pathophysiology of HIV and the mechanisms of HIV drug resistance. Thank you.
Wow, great. Thank you for this presentation, Vinie. Please, can you tell us how your research impacts people's life, people concerned by HIV directly and indirectly, maybe family members and also people who don't have HIV? How does it impact people's life?
Thank you very much, Patrick. So in terms of the impact of what I do, I've been focusing on understanding the mechanisms of HIV drug resistance. We all know that for anyone that is infected with HIV, when you take your medication, the one that we call antiretroviral therapy. So if you take your medication properly, normally, you're supposed to suppress the viruses. So every time that you suppress the viruses, you can live well as someone who's not infected. But if you don't take your medication properly, so you develop what we call drug pressure, because the amount of the drug is not enough to suppress the virus at every time. You give that opportunity to the virus to keep replicating in the presence of a small amount of medication. So by doing so, the viruses is more likely to change every time. So this is what we call HIV drug resistance. So mutation. So if mutation occur, you won't be able to suppress now the viruses. So there's a lot of people right now, particularly in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, who develop, who don't take medication properly, hence develop this mutation resistance. So what I've been working is try to characterize understanding the mechanisms of viruses mutating and trying to come out with options, sometimes bioinformatic algorithm, to be able to optimize subsequent regimen and to come out with a way of, helping other people who are HIV infected to take their medication properly so that they don't develop this resistance.
Mm-hmm. Could you explain how new technologies are helping in understanding and tackling drug resistance in HIV, and why this is so important for people's health, especially in Africa?
Okay, thank you. So in terms of new technology, obviously because HIV is a virus that is, I would say, a little bit tricky, because every time that it mutates, it creates this mutation. So we have different technology that are in line that try to understand the whole component of the viruses, like I would say the whole gene of the viruses, because understanding how all the different genes of HIV interact with each other will help us to understand as well the pathophysiology and the mechanisms of HIV. And then in doing so, we can optimize the medication, treatment, or even cure for people living with HIV, either in the globally or particularly in Africa, where we know that the burden or the prevalence of HIV is in Africa. So new technology help us to either quantifying in terms of HIV drug resistance, help us to detect quickly and easy and in a cheaper way, particularly in Africa, to detect those problems in order for us to optimize, treatment for people living with HIV.
Mm-hmm. You also teach at the University of Zimbabwe. How do you inspire students to get involved in scientific research, especially in the field of HIV and infectious diseases?
That's a good question, actually. That's a good question, because I guess at the end of the day, everything that we do, we want to have an impact in the life of those who are sick, or maybe even of those who are not sick. So for me, I always felt like to inspire young people, you have to take a different approach. And then that's what I always try to do when I lecture the younger one. I'm lecturing right now, master student. So for me, I use a different approach. When I say different approach, is making the lecturer much relevant, not using the books like I remember when I was in Cameroon, and you see like a lecturer will come with those old book, old notes, and I always feel like for me, it's not relevant. For me, what I do with my student, I want to make it relevant by actually using the same research. So using the research, the publication, everything that I work on, using that to make my lecture to be relevant, so that they see that whatever I'm talking to them, this is actually what I do. So
your teaching is pragmatic. Yeah.
exactly. Like my
Yeah.
approach, I will put like all the research that I do so that they can actually literally see, they can see that whatever I'm talking about, this is actually what is happening in the field. And sometimes I will actually involve them. I will involve my master student in the different project that I do have. I will maybe discuss with them if I have sub-objective, and then I can say, okay, this one, if you want to, if you are interested in, you can work in this particular objective. This one, you can work in this particular objective. For me, I feel like this different approach really inspire young people. They make them feel like, oh, by the way, what she's talking about, she's actually doing. It's not only book. It's not something
It's
that she
not
went.
abstract, yeah.
Exactly. She went on the internet to put it together to come and lecture us. Yeah, that's the approach.
Wonderful. I like this method of teaching. It's also they are always motivated to come to class and study. They will not run from the classes. And with your background in biochemistry, pathology, and biology, how do you think this knowledge can help in finding better treatments and vaccines for diseases?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Okay. So yeah, well, I did biochemistry for my undergraduate and my master actually in Cameroon. And for me, I think like as biochemistry, as the name already it's saying, the chemistry, understanding the chemistry of biology. And then I also did another master when I came in Zimbabwe in chemical pathology. Really the name like understanding the pathology of diseases. And then for me, and after I've having done a PhD in virology, when you put all this together, is the way I can put it easily is to understand, if you are able to understand how viruses replicate, the pathophysiology of viruses in our body, how they cause diseases, and how maybe the host, our body respond to these viruses, you are able to understand the interaction between the viruses and the body. So having if you have that knowledge, it's easy to know where is the problem. So if you know where is the problem, because you can't solve something if you don't know where is the problem. So when you understand that mechanism, is very easy now to come up with prevention method, therapeutic for HIV and any other infectious disease. I think that's how I will use my different background is biochemistry, clinical pathology, and virology to understand all this interaction for the cure and prevention of different of diseases.
Yeah, and around you, there are so many people who don't have a background, I mean a scientific background. How can they support the development of vaccines and medicines for diseases like HIV based on your experience?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one as well. So for me, from the experience that I have obtained in terms of this, is like a lot of people you have to. First, I think you have to inspire people. People have to trust in everything that you do. Because even if I take the example with SARS-CoV vaccine, there was a lot of hesitancy. Because if you check maybe in Africa, there were not a lot of people were taking vaccine only because they were scared. You know, they were scared. They were scared because they didn't have, I think maybe that's my hypothesis, I'm not really sure, but I think they were scared because no one really explained to them like what vaccine is, what is the role of vaccine in the outbreak. So I feel like for people that are not in science, if we can answer that question of reassuring them that vaccine is important, reassuring them that what we do is not to kill them, because a lot of people actually thought that if they're giving them vaccine, they are going to die, a lot of things like that. But I think the advice that I can give maybe for non-scientists, we have to come out with the mechanisms to disseminate proper information, to teach them, to reassuring them in order to decrease hesitancy. Because if there's not hesitancy, I'm sure a lot of people will be willing to participate in trial and even take vaccine. So maybe that will be my little bit of contribution in this one.
Wonderful. And another contribution might be maybe financing the researches, because many people who don't have any scientific background are working in other projects or have other jobs and have the possibility to finance. And I have noticed that in Africa, it's difficult to get financing from people not having any scientific background. Because here in Europe or Germany, where I'm living, the people financing projects, scientific projects, they don't know anything about it, but they understand, they see the motivation of the researchers. And I think it's also important for Africa, people who don't have any scientific background, to understand what you guys are doing. We need everybody to improve research. It can be in research, HIV or other fields. And if everybody understands that it has a role to play, then we can do so many things. You see, you are a Cameroonian in Zimbabwe. Actually, you are in South Africa, and I think if we understand, each of us, how impactful we can be, then we can improve research. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah, exactly. We have talked about the impact of technology already, and how does data science now and studying genes help in fighting diseases like HIV, and why should we care about it?
Okay, so yeah, great question, Patrick. And like I say, I think I previously mentioned that when it comes particularly for HIV, the problem with HIV vaccine and cure is being the fact that HIV sometimes use different part of its gene for replicating, sometimes to even hide in the cells. So once we use it's important actually because the genes interact with each other. So if we have that knowledge of understanding how genes interact with each other, we have like a very broad understanding of the mechanisms. And then once we have a broad understanding of the mechanisms of HIV infecting the cell, replicating themselves, we are more likely to be relevant in terms of coming out with treatment, cure, and effective way of suppressing the viruses. So to answer your question is that, yeah, technology is very important to understand all different type of gene of HIV. And I will actually add that it's not only the virus itself, it's also how our body respond to the viruses, because HIV attack different, the type of cell, those cells, we also have gene that he attack. So again, understanding that interaction between various gene of the viruses and the gene of the host human cell is also important. And then we can only use technology, like for viruses, we talk about technology. Today we have things like next generation sequencing, who can do the whole HIV genome. We also have other sequences, type of sequencing that can also understand the host cell gene, like human leukocyte typing is one of them. So once we understand that, using this technology, we'll be able really to have a broad understanding and idea of how the viruses and the host interact together for better cure and management of HIV. And then if I want to take the path of data science, yeah, data science is one of the critical tools that a lot of people use today, because it can help you to even predict how, I'm not sure if I want to focus on HIV only or any other infectious disease, but I will take the example for COVID. That
Yeah, you can take another example other than
okay.
HIV. Yeah.
Okay, so but like maybe we have seen with SARS-CoV-2 how if we use data set, people talk about artificial intelligence today, like we can really use a computer algorithm, bioinformatics stuff to be able to predict even outbreak, what will be the next outbreak, using the COVID, the sequencing of COVID, the different variant that we have, putting them together in a computer, analyzing. It helps us, it gives us that power to know that in 2 years, in 3 years, in 1 year, something like that can happen. The virus can mutate at this specific position and it can lead to something, to a virus that will be maybe more, more harmful for the population. So yeah, definitely data science, I guess, is one of the critical tools that we want to use right now to understand as well diseases and how they evolve.
Very interesting. For young people interested in science, what advice would you give them to pursue a career that can make a difference, particularly in Africa?
Okay, that's a good one. So, well, I guess it depends on everyone. It depends on the passion, really, the passion that you have towards everything that you do. So for those in science, whatever passion that you have, from my own experience, it's just you have to believe in what you want to achieve. You also want to work hard. You want to be resilient, because all these things always comes with ups and downs. So when you see, great scientists out there, it's not, their life has never been only sweet. So there's a lot of ups, downs that come with research and stuff. But if you are willing to do it, you love it, you have a passion for it, you go for it. You also make sure that you develop network, because you can't be who you are if you don't have people behind you that support you, that make you grow. So for me, from my own experience, I would just say, whenever you have passion, of interest for something, go for it, and then make sure that you have the right people that will mentor you and let you, grow. And so, yeah.
Exactly. We need really people for mentorship. Yeah, it's very important. How do you think collaboration between African institutions and international groups can improve medical research and ultimately benefit people especially in the context of HIV and other diseases.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. That's that's a very important and interesting one. Obviously, for HIV cure has been very difficult, but obviously there is a lot of progress that have been made into this area. And then, like I always say, no one possesses everything. Like we need to, the best way of putting things together is collaboration. Collaboration can be described in different ways. Collaboration can be fundings, can be knowledge sharing, can be experience sharing. And obviously, definitely, if we want to end this epidemic of HIV, people need to collaborate. Like you say, like you well say, Patrick, collaboration can come a different way. It can be Africa to Africa collaboration, where African countries come together to understand as well what works for others, for other countries, what doesn't work, who does have this one, who doesn't have this one, and come together to better understand the dynamic of HIV and come out with a way. And obviously with Africa and international, like European or America, is always important because sometimes fundings usually come from, from the West side. So I guess coming together is the fundings, the knowledge, the experience, we help us to come out like with a common solution for this cure or therapeutic way of treating or curing the disease.
Thank you very much, Vinie, for all the knowledge you shared with us today. Thank you very much. It's really inspiring what you are doing. We wish you all the best, Vinie.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you for inviting me to share this with
You're
you.
welcome. We stay connected. We are going to organize a conference or webinar online. Why not? On YouTube and on our YouTube channel, Afrik-innovscience, inviting other scientists. Why not? And yeah, we stay connected. Definitely, we have so many things to learn from you. Thank you again.
And I have a lot to learn from you as well and from others. And that's where the collaboration comes. Yeah.
Surely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you guys for joining us in this insightful conversation with Vinie KOUAMOU, an HIV research expert in South Africa. Let's unite in our mission for a healthier future. Together, we can make a lasting impact on global health. Stay informed and stay inspired. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.